Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:07 here in your nation's capital. Thanks for tuning in here to start your morning with us on O'Connor and Company. We're going to reward you with some pretty scintillating conversations about some major events in this nation, focused right here in our capital. Coming up at 7:35, Ismail Royer with the Religious Freedom Institute here in the district. He was part of the parents group that sued Montgomery County and won parental rights on Friday in the Supreme Court. 8:05, Alex Sawyer, legal reporter for the Washington Times. And at 8:35, Stuart Whitson, he won that Republican nomination for Saturday in the Firehouse primary, and now he's your nominee for that special election, Northern Virginia, coming up in just 2 months. That's all coming up. I'm Larry O'Connor, and that's Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Did you exercise your parental freedom over the weekend?
Every day. Every day.
Well, not if the left has anything to say about it. Let's bring in our friend, who should be, I'm guessing, has a pretty big smile on his face, not because he's touring Europe and Eurasia and Istanbul, I believe, currently. Are you wearing a fez, Joe diGenova?
No fez yet, but it's coming.
Good. Well, you've got to be pleased with not only the Supreme Court's decisions on Friday, all of them 6-3 in the major ones we discussed last week, but talk to me about Amy Coney Barrett's unbelievable smackdown of her colleague.
Unprecedented in every sense of the word. No one who watches the court seriously has ever seen a rebuke to another justice of such ferocity. It was one of the most amazing pieces of writing coming from a woman who seems so quiet and reserved. We now know that she takes boxing lessons on the side and doesn't mince words. That was people. I say this all the time about the court's opinions, but this one is not just a keeper. It's a framer. You put it up on the wall in your billiard room,
in the Louvre,
so that people can see. Oh my God! What a! Amy Coney Barrett destroyed Ketanji Brown Jackson. She sounded like a law professor talking to a student who had not done her homework.
Yeah. Oh, no, at one point she actually, because they always cite cases to sort of explain the point they're making. And at one point she cited Marbury versus Madison, Joe, which I believe is day one of Con Law 101 when you're going for your law degree.
Well, what's really fascinating is that both Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson cited very few, if any, cases in their dissents. What they did do was foment about the end of democracy.
Yeah.
It was as if you were reading a political screed. And I think the justices, are pretty restrained. They try to get along. They like to have a collegial atmosphere. But, this has been going on now for over a year, where Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson have been using political language, outrageous language to describe the other conservative members of the court and their decisions. And I think the other justices have just about had enough of it. Mm-hmm. And let's just remember, Ketanji Brown Jackson was the justice nominee who couldn't define what a woman was. Right. And I think she proved why she couldn't in that opinion the other day.
Joe, why does Kagan join with them? I mean, most people think Kagan is, is not like Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown. Yeah, a little smarter. Right? Why does she join them so often?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because I think she, to a certain extent, feels the way they do about the drift of the court. Yeah,
sure.
Elena Kagan is a very, very liberal justice, but she was a fine Solicitor General. She knows the law. She writes beautifully. But she actually has sort of caved in on the fear-mongering. And the thing that was most disappointing about her is that she has written and spoken about the unconstitutionality of nationwide injunctions. And yet, on this one, she said, this is different. When somebody says this is different, that tells you that it's all wrong.
Yeah,
right.
There's no consistency there. All right, so real fast, on the nationwide injunctions, that's the case, the 6-3 case where Amy Coney Barrett really took Ketanji Brown Jackson to school. As a conservative, should I worry about this? Because, frankly, I remember during the Biden administration, we had a couple of good courts down in Texas who, sort of made the case, no, hold on, you can't keep the border open. You got to reinstate Remain in Mexico. No, you can't forgive student loan debt unilaterally. I mean, there were some cases there where those injunctions actually came in handy for conservatives. Should we be worried for when President Ocasio-Cortez takes the White House and tries to institute an agenda?
No, I think what we do is exactly what the liberals did this morning. They went to United States District Court in Maryland and filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of the same plaintiffs, claiming that they are a legitimate class. Now, this is going to be very interesting to watch out. Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, Sam Alito, all three warned that the left-wing lawyers were going to turn to class action lawsuits, and they've already done it. They've done it in Maryland, and we'll see whether or not the judges on those courts are going to be as scrupulous about this as they try to be about analyzing everything that Trump does. Most of these class action lawsuits should be shot down, but if they're not, the government's going to have to deal with it. It's very simple. If they're playing by the rules, no matter how obnoxious they are in doing it, that's just the way it is.
The parental rights case out of Montgomery County, obviously a very important one where people of faith determined that the public school that they have to pay tax dollars to were preventing them from being able to raise their children the way they wish and keeping them from opting out of objectionable material. Is there obviously, it matters to the parents in Montgomery County and in California, where this has been the state law as well, keeping parents from being able to opt their own children out. But are there other ramifications from this decision, Joe? Will this allow parents to sort of exert their rights beyond just the narrow focus of this decision?
Well, it always helps to have a right listed for you so that you can start claiming other rights. The left has done it for years. There's no reason we shouldn't start. This is a very important decision because it's so obvious. One of the things that irritates people is exactly what happened in Montgomery County. Let's remember what happened here. For years, parents had been opting out their kids from various types of books that they didn't want them to be exposed to, and Montgomery County had no problem with it. It got to LGBTQ, and then all of these parents started doing it, and Montgomery County said, this is just getting too difficult for us. We're not going to allow this. These books are going to be viewed by everybody. That incredible arrogance, which so manifests the attitude in Montgomery County, the leadership, the judges, everything, the county council, Cuba of the North. It's just those people are just obnoxious and outrageous. And the thing about this is, whoever won this case, God bless them. They stood up for the right things. They won beautifully. And again, if you listen to the three dissenters, they're in another universe.
Yeah.
They are talking really about as if there's nothing wrong with exposing children 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old to sexually explicit materials. By the way, the Supreme Court decision became a coloring book. They had all the covers of the books showing exactly the content and the type of stuff that was being shown to children. It's absolutely outrageous. But just think about it. The teachers and the administrators in that school system believe that is okay.
Yeah, right. Maybe I was naive, but I was really hoping that would be a unanimous decision because it's so fundamental. Should have been. So logical. All right, can you stay with us, Joe? Because there's a couple of other things I wanted to ask you about. Specifically, by the way, those nationwide injunctions that have been smacked down, it had to do with birthright citizenship. So what's next for that decision? We'll ask Joe live from Turkey in just a moment. First, though, it's 7:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
We continue with Joe diGenova here, unpacking an incredibly influential and monumental day in the Supreme Court on Friday. And that argument about nationwide injunctions, it hinged on birthright citizenship. That was the order that the Trump administration had utilized through the executive branch that sort of rescinded the practice of automatically granting citizenship to anyone born in this country, even if their parents were entering our nation illegally and had no intention of being part of our country. They cross the border, they give birth, boom, you're a citizen. One would argue that the 14th Amendment to the Constitution never envisioned such a thing. So, Joe, what is next now for birthright citizenship?
Well, I think this is going to be a much more difficult road for the conservatives on the court and for Amy Coney Barrett, and I even think for Brett Kavanaugh. I think what you have here is there's no doubt that the president's interpretation of the 14th Amendment is absolutely correct. The purpose of the 14th Amendment was to grant citizenship to slaves and the children of slaves. So there was no doubt that they who were brought here against their will and had children, that those children would be citizens of the United States. And all the subsequent law on this from the Supreme Court, in all of those situations, everyone is here legally. They are legally in the United States when they have a child. The issue of whether or not someone here who is illegally and that child becomes a citizen has always been an open question. And I think the better interpretation of the 14th Amendment is that those children are not citizens of the United States. I don't think the court is going to do that, sad to say. I think this is going to be one of those cases where they're going to not buck up and do the right thing. I think they're going to cave to the overwhelming opinion of the media and everybody else, because they can say Congress can fix this by amending this law or that law, but then the answer is no, they can't. It's in the 14th Amendment. And if you want to amend the 14th Amendment, that's almost an impossible process.
It's interesting that you say that, because Roberts does sort of have a track record of worrying about the court being perceived as too conservative.
Yes.
Correct? So this kind of, after all of these conservative rulings and Amy Coney Barrett's criticism of her fellow justice, doesn't it? Yeah, I think you're right that it makes sense that on this he would probably feel like this would be the court being too conservative, so would advise.
As I sit here in Istanbul, looking across the Bosphorus, this is a bridge too far, I think, for the court.
Interesting.
That was poetic and beautiful,
yes.
Joe. I appreciate that very much. That is, by the way, an incredible bridge, because you cross that bridge, suddenly you're in another continent, right?
Yes. One continent on one side, another continent on the other side, but it's still Turkey.
Speaking of which, Joe, if I may venture into foreign policy with you, due south of you is the country of Iran, where, as you know, America successfully, it appears through a miraculous and incredible feat of our ingenious, dominant military, ended, at least for now, Iran's ambitions for nuclear warfare. There was an original assessment from the intelligence community that was leaked prematurely by someone. Could have been a member of Congress or the Senate, could have been somebody at the Pentagon, could have been somebody at the National Security Council. President Trump seems intent on finding out who it was and prosecuting them. People who leak never get prosecuted in this town, Joe, and the media seems never compelled or forced to have to reveal who those leaks are. Does a reporter have any standing here on something that is obviously so vital, so top secret, and so contingent on national security? Do they have any First Amendment right to keep this person anonymous?
Well, actually, they don't. And one of the things that's fascinating about this, and it's from it's from the Pentagon Papers case, where Justice Byron White said, you can publish and you can violate the law, but once you publish and violate the law, you're subject to prosecution, even as a reporter. We may not be able to stop you from publishing it because of the First Amendment, but we can prosecute you for publishing it. And of course, in the course of doing so, you can subpoena phone records now that didn't exist, text records, emails, all sorts of didn't exist before. I would think that if the department were serious about this leak, just like the leak of the Dobbs decision, they should be getting text message subpoenas, secret warrants for telephone records and everything. And they should. This is a fairly small circle of people that were briefed about this report from the DIA. And, you could probably, you start with everybody at DIA, but also the senators and people who were briefed on it. I'm hopeful that they will try to do something. And the president is fairly serious about this. And if the Justice Department wants to be pretty strong about this, they can subpoena reporters' records, and they can fight that out. But the reporters are going to lose. They're going to lose. And, worst comes to worst, prosecute the reporter.
I mean, I'm all for that. Especially considering the reporter in question.
Yeah. So the Supreme Court said, if you publish it, we can't stop you. We can't prior restraint. We cannot stop you. But if you publish, says Byron White, we can prosecute you.
By the way,
may be time for that.
Everyone should feel educated in hearing that, because they quote the Pentagon papers as if it's some sort of carte blanche, do whatever you want. You have every legal right to do it. It doesn't matter. Not at all. It only stopped the preventative action of keeping them from publishing it. That's and again, most people don't know that. Certainly people who get a journalism degree don't know that. All right, Joe, enjoy Istanbul. Keep your head on a swivel, though. There's like pickpockets everywhere.
Yeah.
I know. Well, we go out with clothes that have no pockets.
Excellent.
It's like superhero suits, like unitards. Yes. I believe that. Thanks, Joe. Enjoy.
God.
It's 7:20.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, welcome to another chapter of WMAL's Military Medicine Minute, powered by Humana Military and the Friends of Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences. During the Vietnam War, doctors faced a grim reality. Transporting wounded soldiers often meant injuries worsened en route. To solve this, military engineers developed the modern air ambulance system, complete with helicopters equipped for in-flight trauma care. This innovation didn't stay on the battlefield. It transformed civilian emergency medicine. Today, medevac helicopters rush accident victims to hospitals, bypassing traffic and saving precious minutes. It began as a wartime necessity, and then it turned into a cornerstone of trauma care worldwide. Proof that speed, when paired with innovation, can mean the difference between life and death. And that's it for another Military Medicine Minute. I love these Military Medicine Minutes. They really are great. So many amazing things that have been developed in our lives because of the military and the medical corps. All right, coming up, we're going to get into even more details of that Montgomery County Supreme Court decision. We have one of the plaintiffs in the case, Ismail Royer of the Religious Freedom Institute. Parental rights locked in thanks to Montgomery County's overreach over LGBTQ content, and we'll get into the details next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:37 on O'Connor and Company, and Julie Gunlock's been kicking my butt all morning long, and it's not fair and it's not nice. She's been, well, let's just say,
a lot.
We all have our crosses to bear. Good morning, Julie.
Thank you for tolerating me.
It's honestly part of my
so
job
lucky.
description. Coming up at 8:05, Alex Sawyer of the Washington Times, and at 8:35, Stuart Whitson, the nominee for the Republican Party in the special election for Virginia 11. He just won that primary on Saturday. That's coming up. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock, and joining us now, Ismail Royer. He's the Director of Islam and Religious Freedom at the Religious Freedom Institute in D.C., and on the winning side of this groundbreaking and important case in Montgomery County, Maryland, over parental rights and opting out of explicit books. Mr. Royer, thanks for joining us, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It was a remarkable coalition of Muslim parents, Orthodox Jewish parents, Orthodox Christian parents, and various parents who just found it objectionable that the parents would intercede and get between a parent's rights to raise their children with their own values and principles. And the school district, in this case the Montgomery County School District, deciding that they know better for those children. That's really what it boiled down here to, and I want to ask how it felt when the Supreme Court affirmed you, your organization, and so many other Americans' rights, religious rights and just basic parental rights on Friday.
Oh, I I can tell you that it was extraordinary, and to read what the court wrote here, and hundreds of displeased parents, including many Muslim and Ethiopian Orthodox parents, appeared at the board's public meetings and implored the board to allow opt-outs. And when the court wrote that, I mean, I was just getting calls from parents who had, come out in the rain and the heat, and everyone was just so excited.
I've got to think so many Muslim Americans in Montgomery County are either first generation or second generation. They came here for various reasons and believing in the American dream. And then when this school district in Montgomery County came down with this decision, there must have been such a sort of a crushing of ideals here and thinking, wait, this is America. I mean, of all the fundamental rights that a parent has, this is one of them. And hopefully, I've got to say, Mr. Royer, hopefully this decision reaffirms what America stands for those parents.
Oh, well, that's absolutely right. And I can tell you that I watched parents who went from, having very little sort of understanding of the deep constitutional grounds for religious freedom and for parental rights, and just the system of civic politics in America. I watched them get involved in their community. I watched them go to school boards. I watched them get together and learn about the legal system. I watched them learn about the Constitution, and in the end, they were proved right. The school board, the school board was like, you don't know what you're talking about. In the end, the Supreme Court vindicated, their hopes and dreams in America.
Mr. Royer, I on Twitter, or on X rather, this weekend, someone wrote out a really thorough examination of just how far Montgomery County, the school board, was willing to go to force this on. I mean, parents very politely objected. There were letters. There were, it was amazing how civil these parents were asking for the simple right of opting their children out, and they just, despite being sued, despite all this, they just never let up. Talk to me about just the lack of respect you saw from that Montgomery County school board and officials there, for the lack of respect for religious rights for these parents, because they really did, boy, did Montgomery County School Board and schools stand their ground on this. And it's really disturbing the lack of respect they had for both these parents and religious freedom.
Well, it's really interesting because this is a board who considers itself apparently to be, the height of progressive and, respectful. And
inclusion. They always say
inclusion. Yes.
Inclusion. Well, if you look at what the Supreme Court said about that, it said, well, inclusion is a great goal, but not when it comes at the expense of denigrating the face of the other half of the students. And these folks. This is an example of people who believe that they are so enlightened that anyone who thinks any differently, including the people who they think that they are supporting, that they're mocking them. They called one. They said about one student that she was parroting her parents' dogma when she testified about how she found the books to be unsettling. There was just such patronizing contempt dripping from this board, and the Supreme Court just set them right.
Yep, all in the name of progressivism, inclusion and diversity, but only those that they decide are allowed a seat at the table. And let's not forget, they also tried to shut down their meetings and silence these parents, shut off the microphones, and stop the free expression and the debate. It's a win all around. Hopefully, those people who are part of your organization, who live in Montgomery County, who have learned exactly what the left does here, hopefully they'll get politically motivated now and get involved in the next school board election so that there are some real repercussions here. But either way, it's a great day, and congratulations on making those arguments on behalf of all Americans.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Amen. Thank you, and thank you to both of you and to you all for giving a voice to the parents as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, we did kind of feel a part of this, to tell you the truth.
Oh, yeah.
And we did, and we had Muslim parents, we had Jewish parents, we had Christian parents on, all to express the same feelings. And listen, we talk about unity here. we can all unify around some ideas. The totalitarian left is an endangerment to all of our freedoms. Thank you, sir.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is indeed a historical day because it's the signing of a peace agreement between Congo and Rwanda to end a conflict that has been going on for 30 years.
Yes, that's right. 30-year war. Everyone talked about, there's no genocide in South Africa. There's no genocide in South Africa. Meanwhile, they ignored the genocide in Rwanda when it happened, did nothing about it. That civil war erupted into ongoing war with the Republic of Congo. It's been bloody. It's been destructive. It's been absolutely devastating to the people of that region, and the media ignores it, absolutely ignores it. Hollywood made a movie or two, Hotel Rwanda. You had that going on, but that's the end of it. Here, the representatives of both Rwanda and the Republic of Congo were in the Oval Office. They agreed to a peace deal. They had a signing ceremony with Marco Rubio.
Right. Huh? They're both there in the Oval Office saying this.
Signing this peace deal that the Trump administration has been able to broker in just the last few months. And so then you turn to CNN.
They can't celebrate it. They can't take a second.
In fact, they pretend like it didn't happen. Take a listen. Here's cut 8. This is Carrie Champion.
Jobs not done. A foreign minister from Rwanda told CNN, he said he's committed to supporting this ongoing negotiation, but warned that ending the conflict will depend on political will and the good faith. And he doesn't know if that is true, referring to the DRC's government. It's not done. It's not done.
You didn't watch the news yesterday. They literally announced it in the Oval Office.
She might want to watch the news before going. Did he say that?
Scott Jennings said that. Here, take a listen.
He does announce things before it's too soon.
They literally had the countries in there.
The program isn't.
I feel like you should watch the news before you come out here.
I feel like you should stop trying to defend him just to defend him.
I feel like you should watch the news.
I think you guys stop.
What? Wait a minute. I love that. So you stop defending him. Wait a minute. What are we There's no defense here. He literally just signed a peace deal. What do you? He doesn't need a defense. They just can't stop. They can't stop.
They can't.
By the way, did you hear there was an African reporter there who covers African issues who was part of the scene in the Oval Office, and she is gorgeous. I mean, she looks like she could be like Miss Rwanda at the Miss Universe pageant if they do that. And take a listen to Trump's interaction with her, number 10.
And that's so beautifully stated. And Caroline said, number one, she did say, and I shouldn't say this because it's politically incorrect, she said, she's beautiful, and you are beautiful. I'm not allowed to say that, that could be the end of my political career, but I say it anyway. But you are beautiful, and you're beautiful inside. So I wish I had more reporters like you.
I think, by the way, I believe that was a reflection on being beautiful inside. And when he said I had reporters, I don't think he meant, in
well,
sense.
I will say, has anyone checked on the Del Rey cat ladies? This is the kind of thing that'll set them off for weeks.
Well, it didn't seem to set the reporter off. She seemed pretty happy about it. And by the way, absolutely gorgeous woman. It's 7:52.